Welcome to Coleman Report Live. I'm Bob Coleman. We're talking Main Street and the small business lenders who help it grow. Chris Hearn out of Orlando. Chris, welcome. Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Katie, back in her undisclosed location in Washington State. Katie, good to see you. A lot of news going on. But let's go to the three poll questions first, and then we'll talk about the news. Number one, does the legislation increase the 7(a) guarantee to 90%? And it's a trick question, Chris. Do you know why it's a trick question? The answer is no.
I don't, but I had a hunch that it was going to be a trick question because it couldn't be that easy, right?
That's right. The legislation gives the administrator the right to increase it. It does not increase it automatically.
That is true. Yes.
I know. So I know that may be picky, but the reason why I let off with that poll question, Katie and Chris, is because a lot of what we're talking about are rules that have to be implemented by the administrator.
That's right. Yep.
So when we say
she's going to be very busy for this next month and a half, isn't she?
I'm sure her minions are the poor people are going to be working hard. So that's sort of an overriding theme. We're going to be talking about things that we all understand, but understand we have to get additional guidance and final guidance of what happens. Right. So it's going to go to 9%. Don't worry about that, but it's subject to it. That's why I brought that up. Number two, the first draw PPP loan must be paid back before a new PPP 3.0 loan can be funded. And Chris, as I said yesterday, we need to work on our marketing. I love the British bounce back program better than a PPP 3.0 program.
Yeah.
True, false, I don't
know. I would say it's false. I know early indications, proposals suggested this, but the way the legislation text reads, it doesn't indicate this. It seems like you may need to intend to apply for forgiveness, but there's no requirement that it has to be paid back fully before you get to the next PPP loan.
I don't know that, Katie. Do they have to apply for forgiveness before they get funded? The answer is false. You can get a PPP 3.0 loan. It's still the first one in the books. I don't know what the status is of forgiveness. Do you, Katie?
I'm not sure about the forgiveness. I know you have to be planning to use it up.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
But I don't know. They haven't really clarified on the rest of it yet.
Yeah. Again, it's going to be one of these wait for guidance things to get really specific.
But overall, you can get the loan. You don't have to pay back the first loan.
And I think there's going to be a lot of borrowers that have first draw and second draw PPP loans. I have no doubt. Yeah. Right. At the same time, outstanding.
Finally, revenues must decline 25% to be eligible for a third draw. True, 88%, false, 9%, 3. I don't know. Chris, how'd they do?
I think they did fine. They have revenue reduction of at least 25% or more. But
right.
I thought you were going to make another trick answer in here.
No, I only do one trick question.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't want people throwing their monitors out the window. That could be
or in the beach, as that one gentleman.
That's right. Yeah. Go back to the results, Joseph. So what we think what's going to happen is we're going to compare quarter to quarter, as Chris said, first quarter 2020 versus first quarter 2019, or the second quarter, the third quarter. You can pick and choose. Yep. I've also read where there was one outlier that said, no, they're going to do 9 months. I think I've been overruled on that. But again, this is one we don't have the definition or we don't have the guidance from SBA. But if we had to pick one, we think this is what's going to happen now. And Chris, my question to you is that 25% a good number? Is that too high? Is that too low? Or just about right?
I think it's just about right. Early versions had it as 50%. And there were a lot of us who were advocating for 25 to 30%, and they got down to 30%, and ultimately the law now says 25%. So I think it's right. I think it's it's the Goldilocks amount, so to speak. And I think a lot of businesses will be able to show at least a 25% reduction in a quarter in 2020.
Katie, what percentage of the draw needs to go to payroll? Do you know offhand?
For payroll, I believe it's still the same rules we had before.
Yeah. Still 60%.
Still the 60%.
All right. Well, let's go through this. These are the dates that you should know before PPP 3.0 begins. Katie, why don't you run us through these?
So just to start off, I listed when it actually passed. In general, I think it's a good idea to keep track of when PPP started, when we lost funds, things like that. And I believe I've gone over that several times with the crowd we probably have on today. So I won't bore you with it, but just keep in mind that it passed in the House and the Senate on December 21st, and the president signed it December 27th. The PPP will last until March 31st, so we have a few months here to use it up. Of course, that could be extended, but as of right now, that's the end date. The SBA has 10 days to establish the rules and regulations, so we're expecting those rules to really come down before January 6th. Of course, it doesn't say if it's business days, but I'm assuming it's calendar days in this case.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah. So the borrower may select the covered period somewhere between the 8 and 24 weeks. That's pretty much already been established in previous things that we've read. It's just a matter of codifying that. SBA must establish a one-page simplified forgiveness form within 24 days of enactment. That would be January 20th, 2020. So we should be seeing that soon. And honestly, Lance was saying the other day he expects it to come out probably before that January 20th deadline. It seems like that probably, they knew this was coming, so I would expect it earlier too. They've already been kind of working on things like, we've got the S form and the easy form. So this probably is not going to be that difficult to put together. Borrowers are required to retain relevant records relating to employment for 4 years and other records for 3 years. They have not defined what that other records are. So that might be something that we're hoping to hear more from SBA on. There's a lot of dates here. SBA must establish a plan detailing their review process by February 10th. So that's something to be looking forward to, not so much on the borrower side though. A business that was not in operation on February 15th, 2020 is not eligible for a PPP loan. That includes a first draw or a second draw. So that's something just a date to know. Check that. That's something to look at when you have somebody applying, because I am reading OIG reports saying they really want to be a little bit more strict on that. Don't know if the SBA is going to officially implement that or not, but the OIG is pushing them to do so. Seasonal employers may calculate their maximum loan amount based on an alternate period. That's something we've already expected. Farmers and ranchers also have a similar ability to do that. The SBA administrator must issue guidance addressing barriers to access to capital in underserved communities by January 6th. Don't know what that's going to look like yet. Probably going to be something to do with those forms that are telling them who is borrowing what and things like that. And the SBA administrator must release guidance to lenders within 17 days of enactment, so that's January 13th, for anybody who returned all or part of their PPP loan, allowing them to reapply for the maximum amount applicable.
Hey, Chris, we got a question from Joel. It says, what does the SBA deem as an underserved borrower? My understanding is the 4 categories of minority, women, veteran-owned, and low income. Is that your understanding what it is?
Yeah, and then each of those breaks down into further categories. But yes, I think that's generally what they would. The other piece would be in low income areas. I don't know if you mentioned that or not.
Yeah.
If the business is located there, but yeah, I think it's those 4. Mm-hmm.
Those 4. Okay, very good. Go ahead, Katie. One more slide.
Okay, I'll try to speed it up a little bit so we can get into the nitty gritty of this, but SBA is required to comply with the GAO requests. We discussed this on previous shows. The GAO has been requesting a lot of documentation from SBA. SBA has not really given them all the documents that they're requesting, so they must comply with that within 15 days, which is January 11th. or testify to the Senate and House as to why they can't. They also need to continuously testify to the Senate and the House no less than twice per year for the next 2 years on how this program is working, how they're avoiding fraud and things like that. So I don't think that's too difficult for them. I think they'll be able to handle that, but we will expect, we will expect some more forms and things, more testimony and things like that. Government officials and their spouses must disclose the status of their PPP loans within 30 days. As we know, this bill also requires that they cannot get additional PPP loans. So this will just be a disclosure at this point, but any further loans are not allowed. PPP set-asides may be adjusted by the SBA administrator after the program has been open for 25 days. So as we know, all these set-asides, this is something that, like you were saying, might change. The administrator has the ability to change it after 25 days. The borrowers with qualifying SBA loans will receive an additional 3 months of principal and interest payments starting in February. After 3 months, underserved borrowers will also receive another 5 months of payments. Both of those are not to exceed $9,000 per month. So each month they can get $9,000. And then increases to the SBA 7A loan guarantee of 90% can happen, but that can only happen until October 1st. And of course, that's up to the SBA administrator to decide whether that's going to happen for sure. The express loan amount has been or will be able to be increased to $1 million until October 1st. The SBA may establish a 504 Express program that can be in effect until September 30th, 2023. And the covered period for EIDL grants has been extended through December 31st, 2021.
The reason why we wanted to do this is we wanted to give you an idea of, okay, the legislation is passed, but all these other things have to drop as well. So as you can see, it's an overwhelming list. We didn't mean for it to be overwhelming. We're just trying to give a sense of other guidance that we'll be following. That dovetails nicely to our next question, Chris and Katie. Jerry wants to know, I think I understand the emergency EIDL grants, but I'm trying to figure out if applicants will be able to apply for a first-time EIDL loan today.
I believe that's the case. I believe they added an additional $20 billion to the appropriations for that, specifically for EIDL. So yeah. By the way, I wanted to add there is believe it or not, there's more dates, and I don't mean to put Katie on the spot because that was an amazing list. I feel like I could literally set my calendar by all these different things. But one of the things which I think is important, and I was a little surprised to see this in the legislation, was regarding those principal and interest payments. SBA is actually supposed to reach out to lenders and tell them which of their borrowers by March, I believe it's March 1st, which of them are eligible for the 3 months, which is supposed to happen in February. So I'm not sure how that's quite going to work, but to me, that's going to take a fair amount of time, I suspect, from SBA. And that's something that I don't recall if we've seen that before. And then there's a few other things in there about fees, being waived until the end of the year, fiscal year, and things like that. But it's going to be a very active time over there on, what is it, on 3rd in DC.
And there is another asterisk on this, Katie, is that the Speaker Pelosi has said, hey, this is simply a down payment. Yeah. So I don't anticipate any of these programs, any of these set-asides running out of money in the near future. I could see what would happen the first time around. If something gets tight, they'll throw more money at it, or they'll reallocate the funds. What I read today, Main Street lending was, even though it's not very popular, it's been extended.
Yeah, so there was a run on those loans, and I think they pushed it to January 8th or something from the December 31st Treasury and the Fed agreed to. So
yeah, it's sometime in the January, but it's past the December 31st date.
Yep.
Andrea wants to know, did you say that PPP lenders do not have to collect any documentation on any forgiveness or just loans up to 150 grand?
Well, the way the text of the legislation reads is this is the so-called simplified forgiveness for $150,000 PPP loans or less. So it appears that and again, we have to wait for final guidance from SBA, but it appears that lenders will no longer be in the document collection business, which is what we were prior to the enactment of this law. So yeah, I think that's a positive. And much as I've been advocating on this program many times, I think, requiring, just like the IRS requires you to keep your supporting documentation when you file your tax returns, the same thing is going to apply here, at least for the smaller PPP loans, which is the borrowers are going to have to keep their supporting documentation that justifies their forgiveness.
What we anticipate, Andre, is exactly what Chris is saying, a signature certifying that they're in compliance and they have all the documents, very similar to what Chris has been advocating in terms of how you file your IRS tax returns.
Yep.
This is from Urgis, if I pronounced it right. If not, please let me know. But what is your understanding of flexibility in deferral of payments of 7A for secondary market in case investors refuse to grant up to a 1-year deferral? First of all, there will be pressure on the secondary market to do that. I believe they have to do that. But if worse comes to worse, you can buy it back from the secondary market.
Well, actually, there's, there will be pressure, I'm sure, but there actually is, again, there's text in the legislation that says that the administrator is able to buy back these.
Right.
Now, we don't know what that's going to look like. And is she buying them at par, or is she buying them at premiums or discounts? Who knows? So again, this is going to be another bit of guidance that's going to have to come out forthcoming.
Chris asked the question. I like the question, Chris. Eligibility is based on 25% reduction in sales, but can you choose any 13-week period, or do we have to go quarter to quarter? Advance the slide, Joseph.
Yeah, I think the legislation addresses both. The 13-week period, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, comes into account for seasonal businesses, but traditionally, virtually everybody else is going to go on a quarter by quarter basis. What's going to be interesting is that the submission, the simplified forgiveness, or excuse me, the simplified application for second draw PPP also will be a one-page where the borrower will be certifying that they actually meet this reduction in revenue requirement. So that's going to be interesting. For everybody else above 150,000 up to the 2 million cap on second draw PPPs, we're going to have to wait for guidance. And I assume that internally prepared profit and loss statements are going to be sufficient for this, but we don't know. We really don't know yet.
Yeah, very good. I see Katie shaking her head. Yes, so you agree with that. That's your understanding, Katie?
That's my understanding as well, yes.
Yeah. Jonathan wants to know, I'm going to go back, Chris. You said that for the new, for PPP 3.0 draw, what dollar amounts are we talking about? Still that 150? Do you know what?
Yeah, up to 150, you'll have a, let's call it a simplified application. Whereas the 150 to 2 million will be, we don't know what it's going to be, but it's less simplified. Less simplified.
Situation where they have to verify, they have to.
Right. It'll be a one-page document where they've got to say that they meet the 25% or greater revenue reduction in a quarter. They'll have to state how many employees they retain. They'll have to confirm their monthly average payroll. And we don't know what else is going to be on the form, but it can't fit much else on it. So that's the gist of it, and they'll be able to submit that. Lenders will be held harmless. They have to take this information and process it accordingly and submit to SBA for the E-Tran number, presumably.
Finally, Jonathan asked the question, do you know if the new under $150,000 form will need to be uploaded? Yeah, obviously.
My guess is it would be. Yeah. You've got to be able to submit it to the SBA's forgiveness portal. Yeah.
I have a ton more questions. Let me just cherry pick a few and we'll hold the rest over until tomorrow. Raman asked if there's no income in quarter 3, 2020, and there's a 100% drop from 2019, they are absolutely qualified for PPP second round, correct? And that is correct.
Yeah, it should be, but of course they're going to have to prove they're still in business too, and they're still in good standing and things of that nature too. So I'm not sure how you go to zero, but
your doors are closed. So that's a great question. Are you eligible?
Are you in business or are you not? Are you still open for business or not? I don't know. That's an interesting one.
But also remember, the proceeds are going to be used for employment. So if you put together a plan that, hey, I'm going to lock down, my restaurant's locked down, it was locked down, and I'm going to hire these people back, and then that's eligible. Your rights. And also remember, lenders are under that good faith clause that you have to act everything in good faith and pass the duck test.
That's right. That's an interesting one, Bob, because I don't see it going to 100%. Well, going to zero revenues, and maybe the doors have been closed for a couple weeks or months, and then suddenly you're going to say, well, you're going to get a second draw PPP loan and hire everyone back. I don't know. That seems like that's a bit of a gray area.
And I'll finish this with Russell's question. What about new 7A loans and payment forgiveness? I know there's a
yeah.
go ahead. Give us your best understanding.
There's a gap, believe it
Right.
or not, in the legislation, which I don't think that was intended, and perhaps we'll get a solution when they issue the guidance, the regs. But it appears that any 7A loan that was made from October 1 of this year until February 1, or maybe it's January 31st of next year, those loans will actually not be eligible for the 3 months of principal and interest and or the 6 months of principal and interest for a new loan that will actually be eligible based on February 1st going forward to the end of the fiscal year. How's that for an interesting, confusing answer? But
Well, it's true.
we'll see. Yeah.
I think it's one that the administrator will, common sense dictates, no, we're going to incorporate those. But Lance, Chris is 100% correct. This is where the wording is today.
Yes, exactly. So I don't think it was the intention, but there's a lot
I
of
think that's also why
consequences of these
Congress
things.
worded this a lot, which is
Yeah.
Congress understands 6,000 pages.
Mhm.
Yeah, if there's something that's unclear, we're going to allow the executive branch to clarify what we meant. And I don't have too much of a problem with that, as long as they maintain the spirit of the legislation and don't pull what they did with the tax issues.
Yeah. Yeah, which we were all on the right side of that, by the way. We've been arguing for many months.
By the way, I do have to do my mea culpa. It was a week ago that we were talking about the president and whether he was going to sign the bill, and I did a throwaway line. Chris says, "Oh yeah, he's going to sign it. Why wouldn't he sign it?" And then of course it hit the fan. But here we are a week later with you. You
That's
didn't
right.
sign it, so I was sort of right.
Yeah, he just delayed things a little bit. Yeah.
Lance is doing the webinar in a half an hour. If you'd like to know a complete overview of what's going on, please send an email to joseph@colemanreport.com, and we will tell you everything you need to know about PPP 3.0. I have these other questions. I'll address these tomorrow. Chris, Happy New Year. Thank you so much for joining us. Katie, good to see you back. And this concludes the program. Thank you very much.
Have a great day.